A lot of people don't know this, but so much of Fort Lauderdale's culture and history was born from its earliest residents, the African-American rail workers who helped create the city. So here now to talk about how the Black community has developed over the years is oral historian Dr. Kitty Oliver. Kitty, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the first thing I want to talk about is you work with an organization called Trailblazers.
Yes, I'm involved with Trailblazers of Broward County, and it's a group of Fort Lauderdale residents who got together and wanted to launch a community oral history project to preserve the history, the memories, the achievements, and the struggles of the Black community in Fort Lauderdale.
So as you guys are recording this history, what are you realizing is the earliest roots of the African-American community here in South Florida?
Well, certainly the point is saying that the African-American history and experience goes back to the earliest founding. There was an African-American with Frank Stranahan as he set up the trading post. Black Americans were a part of the foundation of building the railroad, which ended up expanding South Florida and making it accessible, which then created the growth of Fort Lauderdale as well as the rest of Broward County. Of course, ironically, that railroad ended up being symbolic of the separation and segregation, because then as the area grew, blacks unable to participate in the experience of the growth of the area ended up being segregated to one side of the tracks as a result.
So as much as they had given to the community, there was so much they couldn't enjoy at one point
So much
in time.
they couldn't enjoy, very definitely. But what happened as a result of that was a resilience and a prosperity that a lot of the history books have not recorded, because there was a development of the community within that containment on Northwest 2nd Street with the now historic Fort Lauderdale Elks Club, which is still there and still a community center for social life. Northwest 5th Avenue became the big shopping district, and that's where they had, there was a hotel, there was also, there were stores that they could shop in. There was the first laundromat that they share about in their oral histories. And then later came Sistrunk Boulevard, which we know today and think of as being the center and hub, but that was really more of a secondary experience.
Well, as the city is working on their plans to celebrate the Centennial, one of the things they're honoring is a wait-in that happened 40 years ago. A lot of people say that that is the symbolic time that integration started in Fort Lauderdale. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think it definitely is symbolic, because so much was going on around the country and especially in the South, and the wait-in sort of reminds us that there was civil rights activity, there was resistance within the African-American community to the inequities that were being suffered. And so then the wait-in was definitely a community effort in order to symbolically say we have a beach here, and we have been relegated to an area of what is now John Lloyd State Park, which was the Black beach, and saying that to involve all of the residents here is a way we can do it, by saying we can go and have access as the white community has. I think that the passage of the open housing ordinance, which came in the early 70s, circa 73, 72, was really the catalyst for the growth of the Black community as we see it now here in Fort Lauderdale, because that then broke down some of those barriers of containment where African Americans had lived only in the Northwest section. So it opened up housing, and it brought in Black professionals who then really began to change the character of the Black community here.
And so that was when true integration happened.
Certainly, when true opportunity then was there.
Now, where do you see the city going from here?
There's a lot of talk about redevelopment of Sistrunk Boulevard. That's been going on for decades now. There seems to be some movement of sporadic development. There's still a need to invest more in the surrounding community in affordable housing and trying to rebuild it, and that's a dream of the Trailblazers of Broward. But I think the cultural diversity within the African-American community continues to give it vibrancy, as we have people from the Caribbean, various parts of the Caribbean that are feeding into it. The Sistrunk Boulevard will probably ultimately be a symbolic heartbeat of the Black community, where historically things will be preserved, and this is where people will go to remember the contributions. But there is a memorial statue being planned that will highlight the achievements of African Americans from 1900 to the present, that will be positioned as a result of the in the process of the Centennial, that will be positioned so that people will remember.
So important that it, as part of the honoring of 100 years, is remembering everything that the Black community has given.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.